Hey guys, what's cracking? It is Krakenation here, and I'm coming at you guys with part 3 of our Descent of Dragons Hearthstone card reviews. These cards are just coming out so fast, and I'm having a hard time keeping up. But we're gonna take a look at some more cards today. We got a lot of good ones and some maybe controversial opinions that I'm gonna throw out there, and just my honest review about some cards. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So first up here, we've got Galakrond The Wretched. So this is the Warlock Galakrond. And the battle cry reads, summon one random demon, invoke twice to upgrade like all Galakrond forms. It's obviously always a 7 mana. And so what is going to happen is, after you invoke twice to upgrade, the first upgrade will give you 2 demons, and the final upgrade, the third upgrade, the third version, if you invoke another 2 times, will give you 4 random demons, as well as a 5/2 weapon, which is something I forgot to mention in the last video. So that 5/2 weapon is important to keep in mind. And then it's also obviously worth keeping in mind that there's a hero power change with Galakrond to summon 2 1/1 imps. That's very comparable to, for example, the upgraded paladin base hero power. So how good is this card? Well, I don't think it's that strong, and that might be surprising to some people. This obviously feels like it's kind of a zoo-y card, right? Like, it has to feel like this card has a home in zoo, because it summons you wide boards with its hero power, it summons you wide boards with its battle cry, and all the invoke cards that go alongside this card are going to summon extra 1/1s. So there's obviously, this is a, Galakrond obviously pushes like a zoo form, but a 7 mana card that you need to play hero powers for. And we'll look at the cards that support this hero power, this Warlock Zoo Galakrond version, and how strong they are. But I'll give you a kind of a heads up right now. I don't think they're strong enough to make this work, because unfortunately, this is coming too late in the game, I think, for Warlock's Zoo style decks to really be able to take advantage of properly. On turn 7, you're going to slam it, and you're going to summon some random demons, and that's always awesome. It's going to feel a good play when you play it. It's going to feel like a good play on the turn you play it, but it's a legendary, it's a 1 of in your deck, it's going to be unreliable. You're going to have to rely on invoke synergies to really make it strong enough to feel good playing the turn you play it. And even then, the invoke style cards aren't even that strong either, because we can kind of value this as 2/2 in stats for invoke, which, yeah, is good, but it's really great. For example, it was really good in Baku Paladin, Odd Paladin, but the reason for that was because you could start spamming those down in the early game. These can't come down in the early game, and this card can't come down, especially if you haven't played those invoke cards. So because it's at its core going to carry what would be this form of zoo, I'm going to give this card 3 stars, and I really kind of want to move this down to 2 stars maybe. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and give it 3 stars, because I don't want to completely miss the mark on this. But for now, I'm going to give it 3 stars, just thinking, like, obviously 3 demons could be a really, really big high roll. Obviously could low roll too. You could just end up with 3 flame imps, and you're going to feel pretty bad about that for 7 mana. But it could also high roll, and you were getting, like, I don't know, like, obviously not a Void Lord anymore, but like some big demons like that Siege Breaker dude or whatever. So there's obviously the chance of the high roll, but this card doesn't feel like it's going to be strong enough to carry Zoo, and Zoo probably has better ways to do what it wants to do these days. So next up, we're going to be looking at some cards that support this Zoo style. If this reads 4 mana 5/4 Warlock epic card, Veiled Worshipper, battle cry, if you invoke twice, draw 3 cards. So obviously 4 mana 5/4, draw 3 cards is insane. And if you're ever playing invoke style Warlock deck, this is clearly an inclusion, because 3 cards is 5 mana worth of value approximately, plus the card that you're playing right now. This is worth a card. 4 mana 5/4 is not a bad stat line in itself. Also fits because it's an aggressively oriented stat line. Instead of 4/5, it's 5/4, so it fits that kind of more aggro-y Zoo style. You might find this. This might find a home in, as well as the card draw keeps Warlock's engine running. So obviously this card does some really fundamentally good things at a base level if we think about it in a vacuum. But obviously Hearthstone is not a vacuum, and we need to think about this card in terms of the context of the deck it exists in. And again, I don't think that invoke style deck is going to be that good, and this card would be the card to push it. But if you notice, the card that really benefits the most off of the invoke mechanic isn't actually the one triggering the invoke mechanic. So for this card to be good, just like Galakrond to be good, you need to be invoking. And I think that so far from what we've seen, the invoke cards, at least within this class, are just not good enough. And so for that reason, this card gets 3 stars as well, for again being a powerhouse for that deck. But just because this card's a powerhouse and it's potentially a game-winning play, the thing is, on turn 4, you're probably not going to be able to invoke 2 times by looking at these other Warlock cards. Invoking twice by turn 4 to play this on turn 4, draw 3 cards, have a great body on the board. That dream scenario seems just wildly unlikely, and more likely is going to happen around turn 6, 7, 8. And then all of a sudden, how impactful are these stats? How likely is a zoo deck to win when its power plays are coming in that late in the game? Not very likely. So I'm going to give this card 3 stars. Next up, we've got Fiendous Rights. Invoke Galakrond, give your minions +1 attack. So invoking Galakrond, we keep in mind, that's basically giving you 2/2 in stats right on the board. And so because this invokes first, you're probably giving your minions the +1 attack after. So you're basically summoning 2 2/1 minions for 3 mana, and it's presumably, hopefully, hitting some other targets. How good is that? Really bad. I think this card is really not that great, unfortunately. I think it just doesn't make an impact fast enough and reliable enough. Obviously, Warlock has ways to build a wide board, so it's not totally hopeless, I suppose, for this card. But previously, we've seen these kind of like cards like Grim Rally work in Warlock because you're sacrificing eggs and cards that want to be sacrificed. And that's also a cheaper play than this. 3 mana to do this, have this effect, doesn't feel that good, even if it comes with a little bit of stats on the board. And obviously, as like a single just drop it play, it works. It's 3 mana 2/2/1s, but then doubling Imp, which is a card that already doesn't see play, and how good is this? And this is just a worse version of doubling Imps in that case. So obviously it helps with those invoke synergies, but I feel like this card is just really not strong enough to carry those invoke synergies. So I'm going to give this card, unfortunately, only a 1 star. This is one of those cards that's like making me really angering and just dead weighting this Zoo Galakrond Warlock archetype. So I'm going to have to give it 1 star. Next up, we've got Dragonblight Cultists, Battlecry. This is a 3 mana 1/1, again a Warlock card. Battlecry, invoke Galakrond, gain +1 attack for each other friendly minion. So this card isn't hopeless, right? This card does something fundamentally good, especially with the way it synergizes with the Galakrond hero power, and that gives you the extra 2/1/1s. So at a base power level, this is a 3 mana 3/3. You're not going to feel good about that, but you're not going to feel bad per se. And obviously, if you have 1 or 2 minions on the board when this sticks, this is going to feel good. So let's say you can go in, you play a minion on turn 2, or you have maybe a 1 or 2 in this. This is a great 3-drop in that case. Because if your 1 and your 2 drops stick, obviously becomes a 3 mana 5/5 with 2/1/1s alongside it. Obviously, 3 mana 7/7. Insane play. So there is a world where this has that upside, but what I just laid out for you was the dream scenario. And again, I don't know if the invoke style synergies are going to be strong enough in this class. This is just one good invoke card that we have so far. This might be the only strong invoke card that would fit in this Warlock style deck so far that we've seen. So for that reason, this card gets 2 stars. It's got upside. It's not hopeless. A 3 mana 7/7, the dream scenario, would be game winning, just back-breaking so early on in the game. But I just don't see that happening on a consistent basis with a card like this when the invoke synergies are not reliably there. I think that I want to reserve a little bit of judgment on this card just because I think if those invoke style cards do end up being better, we see maybe some neutral invoke minions that fit into this more aggro aggressive type style, then this card definitely has a chance to swing upwards rather than downwards. So here we go. Here's Devoured Maniac. This is a 4 mana 2/2 neutral minion. Reads Rush, Battlecry, Invoke Galakrond. So this card will obviously only be as good. It's a neutral card with Invoke, which is interesting because it's going to be as good as Invoke is in that class. But so far, most of the Invoke effects seem to be valued at around 1 mana, I would say. For example, give yourself a random priest minion, or draw a card, or that costs 0 to be first. That's even more powerful, I guess. But these kind of effects seem to be valued around 1 mana, I would say. But so we can value Invoke Galakrond as a 1 mana in that case. So that's now all of a sudden we're looking at like a 3 mana. If you count 2/2 as 2 mana, it's not quite that. It's more like 1.5 mana. So let's say 2.5 mana plus the rush is maybe worth another half point. So really, this card just looks bad. This card looks really bad, and I'm gonna have to give it 1 star because it just feels like, obviously, if there's some crazy deck that's just looking for any way to trigger Invoke, it can. I guess this card works there, but just 2/2. Best case scenario, I mean, we look at it with this Galakrond, and you get extra 2/2 in stats. And this is a 4 mana 2/2, deal 2 damage worth of like stats, and that sounds really bad. I mean, compare that to Fire Plume Phoenix, which is a 4 mana 3/3, deal 2 damage, and that didn't see much play at all. That's strictly a better card than this. So I don't know. I just don't see it working out for this card, unfortunately. The final card we're looking at here is 5 mana, 4/5 Shield of Galakrond, Taunt, Battlecry, Invoke Galakrond. Got that Yeti stat line for 5 mana. So basically, like we said, this card is a 4 mana 4/5 Taunt with 1 mana extra for that Invoke synergy. And so this, on the other hand, feels like an obvious, just if not an auto include, at least an auto obvious consideration for any more defensively oriented Galakrond deck. So for example, the Priest Galakrond deck, this seems like just a natural fit. It's a great defensive taunt minion because it got that 4/5 stat line. It triggers the Galakrond effect, triggers those Invoke synergies, gets that cycle kind of going, but also does so in just a really impactful way. I don't feel like this is going to be a card that will be carrying any archetypes. I feel like this is a card that benefits from powerful Invoke effects. So it's not going to be necessarily the one that drives that hammer home, but it's going to be just another piece that makes those decks more powerful. So for example, we've seen the Priest Galakrond, and I can imagine this being just a really good component of the deck. So I'm going to give this card 4 stars. But let me know if you guys enjoy these videos. Let me know if you disagree or agree. Obviously, these are my subjective ratings, and I made a little more, perhaps slightly more controversial judgments, just considering the fact that I kind of said all Zoo Galakrond Warlock doesn't seem like it's going to work to me. But that's just my opinion. Make sure you let me know if you disagree or agree in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, rate, subscribe. All that stuff's always really appreciated, you guys. I do really, really appreciate that. And make sure to stay tuned for all of this card reveals, because I'm going to be trying to get at least one out every single day so you guys can watch that. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Krakenation out.